In this basic trigonometry video, I'll be showing you about how to find the side length. I'll be going through two examples. I'll give you two questions to try for yourself, then I'll go through a practical applications question. Make sure you know how your calculator works, as if you don't, it can make the process a bit harder and you may get wrong answers. Also, make sure and check that your calculator's in degrees. It's usually represented by a little D in a box at the top of your calculator screen. So what you should already know. First of all, how to label the sides of the right angled triangle, which is hypotenuse, opposite and adjacent. The three functions, sine, cosine and tangent. About SOHCAHTOA, and we'll go through about using them in this video. And the fact that basic trigonometry only works with right angled triangles. So let's dive straight into a question. So here we have a classic question. We have here a right angled triangle. We have three pieces of information on it. We've got the side length we do know, the side length we don't know, and finally one angle of the triangle. Technically we do have four pieces of information. We know the side length of this one as well. This is a 90-degree angle. So first of all, what we want to do is label the sides so we know which ones we want to be working with. So we've got here the hypotenuse side, as it's the longest side and it's also facing the 90-degree angle. Here we have the opposite side, as it's opposite the angle here. And then finally we have the adjacent side. So what we want to do now is bring up SOHCAHTOA. But we want to know which one we'll be working with. Well, basically, we want to know which sides we have information for. We have information on this side, so we'll be working with the adjacent side. And we want to find the opposite side, so we'll be working with the opposite as well. So we know we'll be working with the adjacent side and the opposite side. So if we have a look in the triangles here, we've got the opposite and the adjacent both in this triangle, so we'll be working with the tangent function. So let's get rid of these two triangles as we won't be needing them, and let's start working this out. So first of all, we want to put this into an equation. So if we write out tan theta, theta I'll be using to represent the angle, and you may find you use this during your exams. So tan theta equals the opposite over the adjacent. So let's fill in the information. So we've got tan, and the angle is 40 degrees, equals the opposite, which is x, divided by 6. Now this is in a form we can't work out on the calculators, as we need to find x on one side and we don't know it, so that's why we need to put it on one side. So in an algebraic sense, what we'd need to do is times both sides by 6, so we'd end up with 6 tan 40 degrees equals x. Now if you're not too great with algebra, basically just put that 6 over to that side as long as the x is on top. So now it's in a form where we can just type the information into the calculator. So we'll type 6 tan 40 into our calculators and we'll get the answer 5.03 to 2 decimal places. Now throughout the whole of this video I'll be showing the answers to 2 decimal places. So finally, as your answer, x will equal 5.03 centimeters. Make sure you put the measurements on the answer, as you could lose a mark if you don't. In this case we've got centimeters. So finally x equals 5.03 centimeters. So let's try a second question. So here we have again, find the side labelled x. So here's the side labelled x. So first we want to label the side. So we've got the hypotenuse, the opposite and the adjacent. Let's bring up SOHCAHTOA and find out which ones we want to be working with. We have the side length we know, and finally we want to find out what x is, so the hypotenuse side. So we've got h and hypotenuse and opposite, so we'll be working with sine. Let's move that to the side so we've got more space to work with. So let's work this out. So first of all we want to form the equation. So we've got so as we're working with sine, we've got sine theta, so sine of the angle equals opposite over the hypotenuse. As you may have noticed, if you're not sure which one goes in the top and which one goes to the bottom, we've got the letter at the top will be the numerator and the letter at the bottom will be the denominator, or what you divide the top one by. So we've got sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. Let's fill in the information. So we'll have sine of the angle, which is 24 degrees, equals opposite, which is 25, over the hypotenuse, which is x. Now the rearrangement gets a bit complicated here, but in the algebraic sense what you want to do is times x over, or times x on both sides, so we've got x sine 24 degrees equals 25, then divide both sides by sine 24. So we'll then have the answer x equals 25 over sine 24, or divided by sine 24 degrees. Now, if you're not sure of algebraic manipulation, basically just swap this denominator with this here, because then you get from this bit to this bit. Simple as, really, but if you wanted to do it with algebraic manipulation, just do it the same way I did. But easiest way is just to swap these two over here. So now we've got it in a form which we can enter into our calculators. So let's enter this into our calculator. So we have 25 divided by sine 24 equals 61.46. So there we have the answer. So finally, the final answer would be x equals 61.46, and our measurements in kilometres, so 61.46 kilometres. And there's our final answer. So here's your chance to try it for yourself. Here's the first of 2 questions which you can try for yourself with the step-by-step guide at the side for this one. So pause the video, try it for yourself, and then click play, and then we'll go through the answers. So first of all, what we want to do is label the side. So we have the longer side here, the hypotenuse, the opposite side as it's opposite the angle, and the adjacent side as it's the odd one out. Finally, which one of SOHCAHTOA do we want to use? We've got the information for the hypotenuse side, and we've got information, we want to find the side x here. So the hypotenuse and the adjacent. So here we have K, as we have the adjacent side and the hypotenuse side. So we'll be using cos. If I write it out here in this format, so it'll look easier when we're working it out. So now it's time to form an equation. So we'll be working with cosine, so we'll have cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Let's fill in the information. So we'll have cos, and the angle is 39 degrees, equals the adjacent, which is x, over the hypotenuse, which is 7. So here we have a form we don't really like, as we can't enter this into our calculators. So we want x on its own on this side. Luckily it's in a better form where x is on the top. So all we need to do is times both sides by 7. So we'll get to the answer 7 cos 39 equals x. Remember, if you're not too great with algebraic manipulation, you just need to put this 7 in front of here. So it'll be 7 times cos 39 degrees. Enter this into your calculator. So we've got 7 cos 39 degrees equals 5.44 to 2 decimal places. So x equals 5.44. So for our final answer, we have x equals 5.44 meters. So there we have it. There's your first try it for yourself question done. So here's a chance to have a go at a second one. So again, work through the question. I haven't given you the step-by-step guide in order for you to practice without it. So pause the video, have a go at it, and then we'll go through the answers for this one. So let's go through this. First of all, we want to label the sides. So we've got the hypotenuse, the opposite, and the adjacent. So now we need to know which one of SOHCAHTOA to work with. So if I just write it out here, SOHCAHTOA. Which one of these, which one do we need to work with? So we've got the opposite side we want to work with, as it's the side we need to find, and we've got the adjacent side we want to work with, as we know that side length. So we've got opposite and adjacent. Here we have opposite and adjacent here, so we want to be working with this one, and therefore we'll be working with the tangent function. Let's get rid of these, as we don't need to. So let's work through it. First of all, let's write it out. So we've got tan of the angle equals the opposite over the adjacent. Let's fill in the information. So we've got tan, the angle, which is 50, equals the opposite, which is x, and the adjacent, which is 6 meters. Let's rearrange it into a form we can enter into our calculators. So times both sides by 6, or move the 6 over to that side, depending how you work. So we've got 6 tan 50 degrees equals x. Enter this into your calculator. So if I enter it now, 6 tan 50, it equals 7.15 to the nearest 2 decimal places. So finally, our final answer is x equals 7.15 meters. There we have it. Finally, what we're going to do now is do a question which is has practical applications to it. Now, questions like this may appear in the exam and may not look as easy as the questions we've just done. as these questions are based more on possible real life situations. So here's a similar question to one you get in the exam. If you want to have a go at it for yourself now, pause the video and have a go first. If not, we'll go through the question now. So the question's asking us, a cat is stuck at the top of a brick wall. A ladder is needed to get to the cat. If the safe angle the ladder needs to be placed at is 70 degrees and the wall is 3 meters high, what length of ladder will they need in order to save the cat? So we have some key pieces of information here, so if I just highlight them. We've got 70 degrees, the wall needs to be placed at. We've got the wall's 3 meters high, and they're the two pieces of information we need. So here's a diagram which you may get in the exam or may not. Sometimes they give you all the side they've already labelled it for you. In this case they haven't, so if they've not, I'll show you how to do that. So here we've got the wall placed up. Here's the floor, here's the wall, and here's the ladder, and there's the Mr. Whiskers, the cat. So we've got the right angle here, that wall is against the floor. We have the ladder here, if I highlight that, if it's not too clear, which we need to find the length of the ladder, so it's going to be called X. And finally, the angle the ladder needs to be placed at, they said, is 70 degrees. So this angle will need to be 70 degrees. Oh, and I missed one piece of information out. The wall is 3 meters high. So this question looks a bit simpler now, and looks more like the questions we've already done. So first of all, what we want to do is label the side. So we've got the hypotenuse, which is the ladder. The opposite side, which is the brick wall. And finally the adjacent side, which is the floor. So which of SOHCAHTOA do we want to work with? Well, let's just put SOHCAHTOA here first in order to make life easier and so we can visualize it a bit more. So we want to work with the hypotenuse as it's the side length we want to find, and the opposite side as it's the side length we already have. So we have the hypotenuse and opposite. Here we go, hypotenuse and opposite. So we'll be working with the sine function. So if we now form an equation, so we've got sine of the angle equals opposite over hypotenuse. Fill in the information, so we've got sine of the angle, which is 70, equals the opposite, which is 3, over the hypotenuse, which is x. Rearrange this so it's a form we can enter into our calculators. So we will then have x equals 3 over sine 70 degrees. Type into calculator 3 divided by sine 70 equals x equals 3.19 to the nearest two decimal places. Therefore, our final answer is x equals 3.19 meters. So that's the length of the ladder it needs to be in order to reach the cat, Mr. Whiskers. And there's your final answer. Remember to put the measurements at the end of your answer, otherwise you could lose a mark. Some exams do penalise you for not putting the measurements at the end. So that's the end of the video. In it, we've learned that in order to find the side length, first we need to label the side of the triangle, use SOHCAHTOA in order to know which function we're working with, use this to then form an equation, and then finally work it through. So thanks for watching. For more help or video requests, leave a comment in the comment section, and remember to check out our other maths tutorial videos on our YouTube channel.